Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. It's so glad to be with you here on this Friday afternoon. And Donna's always so happy to be here on Friday afternoon. She automatically starts giggling.
I do.
My goodness gracious. We've had a wonderful week, and we've got a fantastic week coming up for you next week.
We really do. And boy, do we need that now more than ever.
Yeah, living positive in a negative world. Oh, my goodness. And I got to give a shout out. We've had a gentleman by the name of Lars Gustafsson on our radio show. We had him on last year or year before, something like that. We had him on the day. He blew me and Bill Heinrich away. I mean, him and Bill are on the same wavelength there. I'm just sitting there, kind of like that, because he's that good. And on Tuesday, he's going to be with us. Part one will be love and health. I'm trying to read my chicken scratching because
I was just going to say, Jim has trouble reading his own writing.
That's right. That's right. It's like a lot of people have a problem understanding what I mean, but when I say what I accidentally think, But on Wednesday, he's going to be back with us about spiritual growth and prosperity. And the man is just fantastic. And it fits right into the perfect theme of next week, living positive in a negative world, because Donna, you said it best right before we went live about the 3 things that can push your hot button.
Yep, absolutely. I talk about it in my coaching program with my clients. It usually comes down to a person, a place, or a thing. And one of them, or could be all of them, is a trigger for us that pushes us into, a little bit of a negative existence. And then we're not getting as much out of life, as much joy and jubilee and just pure goodness out of life when we let the negative stuff in.
Yeah, because everything that you mentioned there, see, we're born in a world of, survival. That's what we are.
Fight or flight.
Yeah. That's the world we're brought into from infancy all the way up, from birth, I should say, all the way up. And all of those things that drag us down and tear us apart are in the physical world. Once we release that and say, I'm not going to care about things that I cannot control.
Right.
I'm not going to worry about people that are not positive in my life. All they want to do is drag me down or say something negative, or they're a drain on my energy.
Right.
And there's been some places that, when you leave there, you just think, okay, thank you, sweet Jesus. But we're kind of like Shania Twain in that popular song she had back in the mid-90s. I'm out of here. The lyrics, that is. It's, but really, Lars is really going to get into that heavy. We're going to get into that heavy because that is where Donna and that's our wheelhouse. And it comes to us naturally. And we might be joined, Michaela, she's feeding her kids right now. She's got 6 kids. So, it's not just a peanut butter and jelly sandwich here or there to go. But she might pop in and say hello as we round up this week on homeschooling.
What a week.
Oh, yeah. Day 1, we started out right on the right foot with Howard Berg of Berg Learning. Let me put his website up there because this is extremely important. Howard's website is berglearning.com. What he focused on that entire hour was learning how to read, because reading's the foundation of all education. And I love what he said about going to the back of the chapter. And the reason you go to the back of the chapter, you remember why he said that for?
Yeah, he said when you go to the back of the chapter and you read the questions and the answers, it opens your mind to find it.
And when you start reading through that chapter, your mind will trigger, hey, that's one of the questions or one of the answers or whatever. And this is important for me to focus in on because this is what the writer of this material wanted me to learn.
Right.
And Howard's got a program. His program's been translated into 109 languages. So if you're considering homeschooling, and the only reason why you're considering homeschooling most of the time is you want your child to excel. And Howard, if you go back through this week, part 1 and part 4, he was on the show here. He was on the show with us yesterday about writing. But part 1 is the one you really want to focus on when it comes to reading, because he dropped so many bombs in there during the hour. And we played the number game from 1 through 10, which is 0 through 9, really. But number 1, number 2, every single number, he gave a clue for us to paint a picture in our mind so we can remember things. And he used the example of a hotel room. And I'm going to let Donna put me on the spot. I'm going to say that I'm staying somewhere in a hotel and big high rise, and just call out a number, and then I'll go through and explain what the numbers mean.
6.
No, something bigger than that. I mean, a high rise, okay?
Oh.
not El Cheap, not the no-tail motel, okay? Like they have in Tucson.
49.
Okay, 49. That would be car and cat.
Car.
Give me about a 4-digit one. High rise now.
Okay. 7228.
7228. Okay, 7 would be dice, 2 would be shoes, 2 would be shoes, and 8 would be like skate.
There you go.
And
I'm sorry, Jim, go ahead.
I just going to say the 1 through 10 that he told us to memorize, 1 is a pole, like a power pole. That'd be the number 1. 2 is for shoes, 1 on each foot. 3 is for tricycle, because a tricycle has 3 wheels.
3 wheels, right.
And 4 is a car, because a car has 4 tires or wheels. Right. And do you remember what he said 5 was?
No.
The glove.
That's right.
For 5 fingers.
Yes.
And 6 was something real popular here in Texas, the 6-gun, the 6-shooter. 7 was the dice. 8 rhymes with skate. 9 because all cats have 9 lives. And do you remember what number 10 was?
No.
Strike. Spare.
Oh, bowling.
Bowling alley. Yeah, the bowling pins. And he says, if you just go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm just going to say, he says, whenever you think about numbers, just play that little mental picture there, practice that. And he says, that's the way we remember very easily, because we're visual. We're visual
right.
people. Go ahead, Donna.
Well, one of the things he talked about yesterday that I found absolutely fascinating is how he talked about in his program when he has, whether they're children or adults, it doesn't matter. And they're writing, they have to do an essay. He talked about just write it out. Don't worry about your punctuation. Don't worry about the spelling, the whatever. Just write out your bulletin points, if you will. Go back later and edit it. And the reason is the right side of our brain is our creative side. The left side of our brain is the editor side. And that what happens when you are writing, or you're typing it out on your computer, and you go back and I spelled that wrong and the punctuation's wrong. Your brain, 2 sides of your brain are kind of doing this, right? And so it's not letting you get done. It's blocking you. And if you do it that way, you will find that you will get done quicker with more efficiency and a much better paper.
Yes. I was sitting there and I was doing like this. I'm so glad you brought that up, because I didn't even think about bringing that up in the wrap up today. But Howard is right, because I told him, I says, I fall into that trap all the time. I'm typing something and I want to edit it as I type it.
Right.
Because I get it done, I want it to be perfect. And that's just not the way to do it. The thing to do is go ahead and just write it out. You're going to have bad grammar in there. You're going to have uhs and thus and all that stuff. Just write down, let your creative mind flow. And then once you're done with it and you're satisfied, then you can go back and let your editor, okay, it's edit time now.
Right.
And that's a good way to look at it. It's creative time and it's edit time.
Right. And
But
that way, both sides aren't at war with each other, if you will.
Yeah. It's kind of like us old country boys when we were in school. It was either history class or recess. We didn't have history during recess. That might be, I can just see one of my buddies go, yeah, Jim, I understand it. Now I know what you're talking about there, boy. Yeah. But that was a trap that I fell into, and you don't know it. You don't realize it.
Right.
And it just robbed you of energy.
Well, and the other thing that was so beautiful about it is, especially for our young children, it teaches them. I'm a big proponent and believer in this, as you know, when we're young and we see it in our children, and we can remember it ourselves. You know, when we're young children, man, the sky's the limit, and you're just happy, and you get to play, and you're learning things, and life is great. And then as we age and we get older, more responsibilities come in, and more responsibilities, and more things come at us from everywhere. And all of a sudden we're in sensory overload, and we forget how to have the joy of a child.
Oh, yeah.
And when we forget that, right? When we forget that, we lose part of ourself. We lose part of our creative side.
Yeah, we really do. Growing up, if you like most of us, me in particular, you get ate up with this disease called teenageritis.
I call it no-brainitis.
Yeah, the same thing. They're definitely related. And because it's, you know, like you say, when it's a kid, I mean, everything is, you know, new and fun, and life is good, you know, and that's the way it should be for a kid.
Right.
It really should be. And then,
but that doesn't mean, Jim, that we should lose that as we get older, because, you know, we are adults and we have to, you know, pay our bills and be responsible for, you know, upkeep on house and cars and all the things that go with it.
Oh, yeah.
But that doesn't mean that we can't have joy and the joy of a child.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And, you know, the outlook on life, I tell people when I graduated from high school in 1967, Shelby High in Shelby, North Carolina, I can't say anyone specifically said it, but the attitude was, hey, we're going to go out and set the world on fire, baby.
Oh, yeah.
We're coming, you know. I look back now and I think, thank you, sweet Jesus, we didn't start one. We might have burned the whole earth up, you know.
Right.
But, you know, the attitude of being able to be unleashed, that's what homeschooling can be for a lot of kids, because sometimes homeschooling is boring.
Right.
I thought I was a poor student. And then later on, much later on in life, I realized it wasn't my ability to learn. It was their inability to teach me and keep me engaged.
Right. And I found that out with one of my children. One of my children is dyslexic. Now, for those of you who don't know, most dyslexic people are beyond smart.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And she is no different. She has eidetic memory, and she used to get really poor grades in late grade school, early junior high, and then all of a sudden hit high school and went from, you know, C's, D's to A's, a few B's. And I'm like, what the heck happened? And I was talking to the principal, and it was hysterical because the principal said, well, knowing her and knowing how she is and seeing her, because he went from junior high to the high school as a principal, a vice principal, then principal. And he said she wasn't challenged. So she just didn't put much into it because it just didn't stimulate her.
Exactly. And ladies and gentlemen, the reason why we talk a lot about Berg learning, oh my goodness, he shared again with us yesterday about the little girl that was suffered from ADD, and I think she was the one. He's had 200,000 students or more, I forget. I mean, but she was told the best that she'll be able to do is be a greeter at Walmart.
Who would tell a child that?
And a moron,
right?
somebody that's totally disrespectful, does not understand that, that they did not create the universe. They did not write things in stone. And, it's just I hate to say it, but it's just a stupid statement to make to a kid. It really is.
Well, it's deplorable.
And what happened? You want to share the rest of the story there?
Well, what happened was she went to Berg Learning and learned the way that he teaches. And let me think if I got this right, Jim, correct me if I'm wrong. Went on, graduated high school and graduated with her first 2-year degree in college at like within days of each other, and went on, graduated college and graduated with her master's degree at, I believe, 22.
You got it. He sure did, boy. And, she says, okay, bye-bye, Walmart.
Right. Well, and that's it. I know from my own experience, I've had problems with teachers being disrespectful to my children.
Oh, yeah.
To the point where I had to step in because just because they're a teacher doesn't mean they're always right. Now, if my child is wrong, I will absolutely back the teacher 100%. But on the other foot, if my child is right and the teacher is, in this case, was basically just embarrassed the living bejeebers out of my youngest in front of her entire class.
Oh, that's
just
horrible. Humiliated
her. And well, if you know me, that doesn't set well with my personality. So let's just, needless to say, the teacher and I had a chat. First, it was via a letter, a little note I wrote him, and then it was a chat on the phone. And I told him if he did it again, he was going to see what it felt like. I was going to come in and humiliate him in front of the entire class.
Yeah.
Because you just don't do that to anybody, anywhere, especially in trouble.
Yeah. And if you're ever in a supervisory capacity or you're over people, it doesn't matter what the situation is, you always do the correction in private.
Correct.
And you always praise publicly. That's a principal rule. And I remember in my 5th grade, it was a horrible year for me. I think I got more whippings that year than any 3-year period. And the reason why, my 5th grade teacher, her husband, worked on the same line crew with my dad at the power company. I'm talking about the same truck when they ride out and work in the field. And I cannot tell you how many times she had those half moon glasses and she'd look over her glasses at me and she'd say, "That's okay. I'm going to tell Hugh tonight." Oh, God, thanks. And of course, the next day, 5 o'clock, I make sure I got all my chores done, everything done, because 5 o'clock, Dad's coming home and he's heard it from, she told Hugh told my dad, and you can imagine how that's going to go down.
Right.
But I tell you what, it did give me incentive to make sure I passed that grade, because 2 years like that, there's a real good chance, Donna, you'd be hosting with someone else today.
Right.
I probably wouldn't have survived that 2nd year.
Well, again, it's funny. I had a teacher in high school who was married to the mayor. And of course, they taught separate classes completely. And they like to compare notes on who was in whose class. So if somebody skipped a class and skipped in his class or skipped in her class, they like to compare notes, and then they sit down and have a little chat with you. And I'm like, oh, hold the phone here,
Yeah. Yep. And ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking a lot about the 6-minute webinar. Let me put the website up there. The 6-minute webinar is our proud sponsor here at the TV show and on E360 TV. And, I put up Howard's website there, didn't I? Oh, here we go. I forgot to do that. Okay, here we go. There we go. Did I do that right? There we go. 3 times the charm. I'm glad it's Friday. I'll do some remedial training this weekend. So next week
I
I'll
put
do
it up. You took it off.
Oh, okay. When I'm trying to do something. But I thought, what in the world? She's over there pushing buttons. I'm over here pushing buttons. And, anyway, and I make this public confession in my heart that I'm going to be in remedial training this weekend on how to push buttons. But the 6-minute webinar, oh my goodness gracious, we brag about it a lot, but really we're not bragging. We're telling you the truth. If you go to that website there, 6minutewebinar.com / there she is snorting. She'll be down for the count. She'll be back in a couple hours. And, just / free trial. Guess what? You can try the 6-minute webinar. You don't need a credit card. You put your email address in. And when you complete your 6-minute webinar and you put your email address in, your 6-minute webinar will be delivered directly to your email address within 1 minute after it's done.
Yep.
And then you read it, because this is about whatever your product or service, just focus on one thing. If you got 3 things, take numero uno, because once you do number 1, then you can do number 2, then you can do number 3.
Don't mix them.
No. And then you can be the judge. And, that's our free gift to you. And on behalf of the good guys over there at the 6-minute webinar, Dandy Don McGrath, who created Script Pal, you will use his program. And Mr. Bill Heinrich is a co-creator. And I tell people, Bill co-hosts with me on the radio show. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm joined today by the co-founder, the co-creator, and the dean of the 6-minute webinar. I love doing that on the radio show. I really do. But see, if you're out there and you got a business and you're struggling and you're trying to figure out, okay, do I need a funnel? How do I market this? How do I do this, that, and the other? Start at the 6-minute webinar. The 6-minute webinar starts you in your business, just like good reading habits and understanding how to learn is the key to a good education.
Right.
That's a great analogy. Would you agree with that, Donna?
I would 100%. I've been involved with the 6-minute webinar since its inception. Since it began. Yeah, since the very beginning. And I can't tell you how incredibly useful it is, not only in my business, but Jim and I actually use it here on our show when we're working on projects.
Yes.
We've used it to our speeches, because it just cuts out all the silliness. It cuts out all the silliness that we get in our own way. We trip ourselves up.
Yeah. Talkers like to talk. And then once they get talking, to get more comfortable, then they get the telling and the telling and the telling and the telling. And it's like, I don't remember who I was telling this to, but I remember one time we were in Tucson, we were going to buy something. And the salesman kept yakking and yakking and yakking and yakking. And we're sold. Okay, yeah, and blah, blah, blah. I feel like saying, would you just shut up and write us up? we got other things to do with our life other than stand here and be oohed and awed by you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, yes, a beautiful program. Try it, folks. There's not going to be a sales, a pitch call afterwards, anything like that. No. Not how they operate whatsoever. They don't have time, to be honest with you.
Because a lot of times during our free workshops that go on for 3 hours, people come there for free and they fill out a 6-minute webinar just like you can there. And they have little videos, 2 to 3 minutes. They're not long, explaining what the object is for this one section. And for you marketers out there, this here will blow your hush puppies right on off of you. You know what I mean? Because when we get ready to close and all that, and Donna said, is it okay with you if I show you what else we offer? VIP package and different packages and all that. You want to know what the sales closure rate is on that with people that just come there that's just learning how to spell 6-minute webinar? They have no clue what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
Over 70% of the attendees buy.
Right.
So that is why if you fill one out and you put your email address in there, you'll get the program for free, a free trial. And they're not going to chase after you because they don't have time to chase
No.
after you.
No, they are incredibly busy.
Yeah, and that's not their forte. If they give you something, they give you something.
Yeah, it's from the heart.
Yeah, it's not some lost leader thing like, hey, let's just dangle this. There's no bait on it, okay?
Right. There's
And
no
no
click
hook.
and bait. No
Yeah.
click and bait there.
That's right. That's right.
So, as we wrap up this week, Jim, one of the things that we talked about earlier in the week was bullying.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And that's a big hot topic.
Mm-hmm.
But, I did a little due diligence research here, and there are numerous reasons why parents are going to homeschooling.
Mm-hmm.
I love that they have more time. They give more time for their children to focus on areas they have trouble learning in.
Mm-hmm.
Because, when you have trouble learning in a classroom setting and there's 20 plus kids in there, you can really feel bad as a child if you don't get it. And then you feel stupid if you ask a question. And unfortunately, that's the way our society works. So
or if the teacher asked you a question, that's what I
Right.
experienced.
Either way. So that's one of the reasons. Kids pick up things quicker than in public schools.
Mm-hmm.
And they are statistically shown 30% higher grade average with less time involved, less time sitting actually in school, more time for other activities.
Mm-hmm.
One of the other reasons, Jim, of course, it's a safe environment. That's a big one right now for parents. And I totally understand that. Peer pressure, sexual assault, physical violence, bullying, drugs, alcohol. Unfortunately and sadly, every one of those things I just mentioned is prevalent in every one of our schools. And I mean from kindergarten on up.
That's really sad because, you picture yourself, any little kid sitting in there that doesn't want to get drug into that, don't want to have the peer pressure to be shoved or pushed into that.
Right.
And, then there's a bully sitting over there. You can't learn anything if you're worried.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. I mean, look at times when you're worried about something, maybe a loved one is very, very sick and someone tells you something and you can't remember that. Well, if you can't remember that, how are you going to learn something if you're worried about something?
Right.
They go hand in hand. So, kids, the beauty of it is, of course, you got to check with your local steps. I'm speaking here in the United States. Check with the local state. Every state has different laws, but Michaela brought up some numbers. I think she said 2.5 million in the year 2019. Of course, in 2020 with COVID and the lack of toilet paper, it shot up over 9 million. I mean, it's 2020 is going to be remembered as a year. When you go to the supermarket, you buy a jetpack straight for the toilet paper hour. I wonder what Einstein came up with that. You think, everybody head for the beanie weenie aisle or something,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it's really prevalent. And here's the other factor, Jim. Because COVID hit, there are a lot more companies out there who now realize they can have as much productive work from people working from home as they can at work. Mm-hmm. So I think we're going to see a big uptick in homeschooling because they can do both.
Yes. And I've often said, I've looked at I'm trying to adjust my camera here so I can make myself look presentable. Do I look any better, Donna?
Just push a button. You'll be fine.
Oh, okay. All right. Oh, yeah. Same button she's pushing. I'm sitting here. What in the world's going on down there? But it just amazes me how with the increase in businesses that 2020 created, because a lot of people lost their jobs and a lot of people are looking how to get things going. And I want to just pop into something that just came to my mind. And with the utilizing the 6-minute webinar and utilizing how to read quickly and remember, those things will go hand in hand for you in business. And learning how to read and remember and all that, that's going to set your kid light years ahead, because you can make Howard's entire program is wrapped around one 3-letter word: fun. Make learning fun, because we had him on the show and it was so much fun. We had to have him back on Thursday. We really did. Right.
And one of the other things I found that some of the reasons that parents choose to homeschool their children, of course, many reasons. One that we just went into about, the safe setting for their children, but they have greater control over what their children learn.
Ooh, yeah. Oh,
that's a biggie. That is a biggie. They can spend more time with their children. Perhaps there is an illness that keeps a child from a regular school, some type of illness. They can customize the curriculum. And I love the fact that they can do this based on their child's needs and capabilities and their personality. They can focus more time, of course, on areas that they have trouble learning. Some children have a shorter attention span, Jim, and therefore homeschooling can give them more breaks, therefore enabling their child to actually learn more, because they can't focus for a long period of time, like a normal amount of time in a classroom.
Oh, yeah, because we used to be in there 45, 50 minutes at a clip.
Right.
And if your child has, most people, goodness gracious, all of us, our attention spans on something, if we're interested, it can go longer. But if it's just something that we need to know, keep it short.
Right.
People value
Brown syndrome.
Oh, yeah, because people value time more than they do money, number one. Number two, the fact of it is that if your kid knows, hey, I got to focus on this for 10 minutes and then I get a break. It could be a 30-minute break or whatever.
Right.
Wow. That's that can really take a lot of pressure off a kid.
It really can.
Oh, my goodness gracious. Look at there. Look who's joined us. Pop right on in there. Say hello. There she is.
Michaela.
Hey, Michaela.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Fine,
Wonderful.
fine. We wanted you to just pop in and say hello with us and all those wonderful things. And because we're doing a wrap up on the, this week's, what are we talking about? Homeschooling week. I was playing with the buttons over there. Donna was messing with me earlier before I got in here because I was pushing a button. She was pushing a button. And I kept wondering.
I saw, and then I caught the snort. I've been waiting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 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 Sometimes I'll say something and I don't know what made her, what was so funny. I look over there and she's, and she'll snort. Oh, yeah. But one thing that I was going to mention earlier about the advantage of homeschooling, I've noticed that in a few cases down the pathway of life, whenever a working mother is working and she's paying child care and stuff like that, if you really look at all the numbers, by the time you got to have a reliable vehicle or pay for public transportation, okay, you're gonna invest in clothes. And then after working all day, you'll probably stop at the supermarket and get something that's prepared, or, stop here and bring home supper or whatever. When you add up all of the hidden costs there and all the expenditure right out of your pocket, they're not really making much money by the time they get done paying for childcare, because childcare is very expensive.
Oh, it's extremely expensive.
And think about the quality of time with the child. My
Mhm.
goodness gracious. And Michaela, you've got a little experience at being a little mother. You've got, let's see, she counts them off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 kids,
You
right?
have to start using the numbers. I was
Yeah.
telling my husband that when we count them now, instead of doing roll call in the car when they're like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we have to start pole, shoes.
Shoes.
We got to start doing it that
Tricycle.
way.
Yeah. I thought you were tricycle. I was tricycle yesterday.
But I thought, Mom, my name was Janie.
Yeah.
Oh,
Be quiet, Dice.
right.
Well, there's not 7. That's right. Glove. Yeah. We'll take one off of there. But
Don't
it's-
add more than there needs to be.
Yeah. You and Ruben are a great couple, and it's just you got wonderful kids, beautiful kids, well-behaved kids, and goodness, they take a lot of time and energy investing into kids. But you cleared up some of the myths about homeschooling. I'd like for you to maybe, if you remember 1 or 2 off the top of your head, or you may have a note stuffed up there inside that little. I gotta get me a button, put me a note up there and pull it out.
I wish it held as much information.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a top 10 list of myths, and we did talk about how, a lot of people don't think their kids that are homeschooled will go to college. And a lot of times, the kids who are homeschooled and get a customized education have higher test grades. And a lot of the time, I think people forget. It's easy to say that kids they learn differently. But another thing to put into consideration is that teachers teach different. So if you have an older teacher, they're going to teach probably the older ways. If you have a new teacher who just graduated, they're going to teach the newer ways. And then when you go home to do homework, there's a clash, and then not only that, but some kids thrive in small areas. So at home would probably be best. And some kids thrive where there's competition, where there's other peers. So, I think that is a really big thing to consider if you're wondering if your kids should be homeschooled as well.
Yeah.
But kids who are homeschooled, they get into college just as much as public school kids, and they do test really, really high.
Yeah.
Right.
One thing you were talking about there came to mind, Donna, you've hit on this too, and that is, who knows your kid better?
Right.
The younger teacher, the older teacher, or you? How many times mothers have said to their kids, especially their boy, I brought you in this world, sonny boy.
My God, don't make me take you out.
Yeah. And it's like I heard a comedian here recently. He was talking about Jesus, and he was talking about when he's left behind at the age of 12, and he called his mother woman and says, "Woman, don't you know about my father's business?" He said, "I'm from Texas. Imagine calling your mother woman. You're going to be wearing your teeth around your neck like a necklace or something, And that's real appropriate, because nobody knows their children better than a mother.
Right.
To know what their interest is, what their attention span is, and how to build on that with education and with reading and learning how to make it fun. If history is not their hot button, cut it back from 10 minutes to 8 minutes to 6 minutes. Give them a break.
Right.
It's just, and see, only a mother, or when I say mother, I mean fathers too, but only a parent can know when to feed it a little more throttle and when to back off a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Because you can push a kid into the area of resentment, into I hate this. This is, or as kids like to say, this is stupid.
It's stupid.
Yeah, this is stupid. And of course, I've never said that before when I was young.
I'm sure.
Until they get into the teenage years, and then you don't hear that word. You see this.
Yeah, or hear whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't know anything.
I'm like, don't eye roll me.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, is there
Yeah, I
something
heard that
on the ceiling? Yeah, we call that getting eat up with teenageritis.
Right.
But
one of the other beautiful things about people who homeschool their children, they do a lot more field trips that are educational and pertinent into the subject. So if they're studying history, they take them to the history museum, 2 or 3 of them. They take them to art museums, and that goes right into what they're studying. Same thing with educational vacations, that they're able to do this. So, I mean, there is a lot of great things, if I could, I'd like to share. When my children were young in grade school, I would do a little summer school with them. And, it was just simple reading, writing, arithmetic. My youngest was just Johnny on the spot. She was already cursive writing by the time I got her into kindergarten. But, I kept them, it wasn't a lot of time, but it was like, I think 3 days a week, we'd spend some time on it so that they didn't lose those skills over summer. But one of the other things that we did was I always incorporated grocery shopping and to math, how much the price is, over here, this store compared to this store, what's the price per ounces? And I would convert that and help them with their math, although they didn't realize it at the time. And the other thing that was so beautiful is that they would help me make snacks. In the summertime, we were always outside playing and stuff. And so we'd make up snacks for pretty much for 2-3 days ahead of time. And they would get to pick their snacks. They would get to pick their drinks. So that's another thing that we are teaching them and having that time with them. They also feel empowered. And that's very important for children to feel they have a choice. So one of the things I recommend is have a little container, just a little plastic container in the refrigerator where your children with their name on it, your children have their little snacks and they get to pick their snack for the day. They make it and they get to pick it. And then, what's in there, and you've done that together. So you're teaching them skills on so many levels and being able to spend enormous amount of time that is a memory forever.
And you're recognizing them as an individual. That's something that a classroom can never do. Right. And I'd just like to share with the folks out there, I went to a website here. It's called verywellfamily.com, just like it sounds, 3 words, very, V-E-R-Y, well, W-E-L-L, family.com. And they listed the 7 best online homeschool programs in 2021. Best overall was K12.com. Best budget was abcmouse.com. Best for structure, time, the number 4, learning, time for learning. Best for community was Connections Academy. Best free was Khan Academy. Best for college prep was ED capital X. And best for math and science was CK-12 Foundation. Again, that was verywellfamily.com. It's the best online homeschool programs. That's the top 7 there. And I love the one that they mentioned there. I hadn't had a chance to research it. The Connections Academy, best for the community. When you were on with me, was it Wednesday? I think it was, Michaela. We talked about, imagine in a community if 2 or 3 families were homeschooling and, between the parents, each one was, maybe dad was more into science or something like that, whatever. But you could, maybe switch off a little bit and have the kids, virtually, go to one, classroom there and be taught by a person who really has a knack or special skill for that. Right. And the kids would benefit and the parents would benefit and get a break. And I love what you said there, Donna, about going out on field trips and like history museums and all that. And for people, just imagine if you believe in evolution, you could take a field trip to the zoo and visit your relatives.
Well, there's just a vast amount of resources out there for homeschooling that you can incorporate, and that's part of making it fun for your children.
Oh, yeah.
And I know when my children were young, I learned things right along with them. And in high school, when they got up into high school, it was when they were into math, and of course my middle one, who's just beyond bright. So I couldn't even begin to understand the first page. But I remember she was asking me a question, something in history, and I can't remember the question now, but I remember answering it. And she's like, well, do you know this? Do you know that? And I'm like, well, yeah, it's this, this, and this. And she looked at me and said, how do you know that, Mom? And I started laughing. I said, well, because believe it or not, child, even when there were dinosaurs, I did go to school. But it always, everything comes through, and all of these things that these people do together. And there are support groups for homeschoolers on Facebook too.
Oh, yeah. That is tremendous, because if you're thinking about homeschooling, or if you're in homeschooling, and because everybody looks for room for improvement. If you don't, you are stagnating and you're not growing. But check it out with other people who are successful, people who are involved. They will be more than happy to tell you, this is what went well, and these are the lessons learned. You don't want to say, this is where we got to go and a no-go, but what went well and the lessons learned.
Right.
And, it's amazing. All these people who homeschool, they have a very caring heart. They care for people. They care for other people's kids, because they understand how important it is for your kid to get a great education, because that's why they're doing it. That's why they're investing in themselves and their child. And there's so many other things out there we could talk about that we covered this week. But with Howard Berg, if you can get your kid to start reading for fun and start learning at the same time, you're on easy street when it comes to school. You really are. Otherwise, you're pushing a chain uphill. If a kid finds learning and it's not fun, it's torture, I mean, you got your work cut out for you. And Howard does a good job in that, as far as having a great academy, translating 109 languages and teaching kids how to learn. And Michaela, you said when you were in school, the teacher told you to go to the back of the chapter and read the questions and the answers, but they didn't tell you why. You just did it.
Yeah.
And if they just said that one little thing, which is what? About why you read the questions in the back and the answers. You remember?
So you know what the author wants you to get from it. What you're reading. And honestly, even when the teacher would tell us to do it, half the time we wouldn't, because we thought it was pointless. But if you don't really know the reason why you're supposed to do something, you're not going to really catch it as you're going through the passage. You just think you're just reading these questions. Your brain isn't telling you, look for these answers as you're reading it.
Right. Yeah. And sometimes I think and this certainly isn't the case for every teacher, but our teachers, we all know, are so overwhelmed with so much that they have to do in classrooms. And God bless each and every one of them. But sometimes, maybe they forget. They forget to explain the why, right? Yeah. And it's not an intentional thing, but they forget, because there's so much that they have to take care of that is on their plate as a certified state teacher. And so, one of the reasons as people homeschool is because they can take a little bit more time with their children, individualized, right? Sort of like an IEP, individual, and I just totally forgot what it stood for, and I've dealt with them with my children forever. But anyway, individual education program. Thank you. So you're sort of doing that. You're doing an individual program. So if you know you have a child who has that reason to ask everything has to have. You don't want to squash that. You don't want that squashed out of them to where they get afraid to ask. I mean, you want your children to question, because the only way we learn is by questioning and getting answers.
That's right. In fact, we had a guest on, I think it was Olga Belova.
Oh, she was awesome.
Oh, wasn't she though? She read our hand, and I made the comment when I called her up one day, and after we sent her handprints, and I said, "Hey, Olga, this is Jim Grant." And she started laughing, and she said, "That's not true. That's not true." But she made an interesting point that the top 1% of people, I believe it was her, and correct me if I'm wrong. It might have been Vern. I'm not sure between the two, but it's been several months ago. But the top 1% of the people who really excel in being successful in life, they don't look for the pat on the back. No. They know they're the great I am as far as in their world. What they thrive on is the people that come up to them and say, "You can't do that."
Right.
Or, a lot of you may think you can do that, but you can't. They love a challenge.
Right.
And when you challenge your child to be successful in homeschooling, oh my goodness, you're going to have a superstar on your hands. You will have a superstar on your hands. And I'd like to say something about teachers too. I've heard teachers in the public school complain about the process and the nonsense they got to put up with.
They do. They have a lot of red tape, Jim.
Bless their hearts. And we're not, condoning, homeschooling over your job or anything like that. My heart goes out to you because when I was an instructor in the Army, certified instructor, I retired in 2004, but even back then, we had some of the most ridiculous bunch of nonsense that consumed our time. For example, I'll give you a classic example. This actually happened to me. I'm standing on the stage and I'm giving a class in front of about 40 students. And there was this evaluator in the back of the room. He thought he was an Einstein, but the first letter in his word was changed from E to I, and I'll let you fill it in. But right after the class, I just stepped off the podium, which was about one step down, and 2 or 3 students came up to me and said, "I've got a question about this." So I go over to the side to the board, and I'm answering their question, teaching them about the way frequencies work, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then I walked back to the back of the room, and the very first thing he did was look up at me and he says, "Can you explain to me why you have not filled out this information on the class you just completed?" And I just kind of looked at him because I thought he's going to smile, but he was serious as a heart attack at midnight. And I looked at him, I said, "Well, I'm gifted, but I'm not that gifted." I mean, what do you say to somebody like that? He saw me up there. I ain't even had a chance to come back there. How can I fill out a form that's in the back of the room when I'm still up there taking care of business in front? But that is the type of stupidity that I've heard other teachers complain about in the process, because these people are not in front of the kids. These people have no skin in the game. They're just a bunch of stuffed suits sitting in a cubicle, and they think they're intelligent. I mean, as my dad used to say, that's about as dumb as you can get when you think you're smart.
there's a tremendous burden.
Oh, yes.
Of red tape, if you will, that the teachers have to go through.
Yeah,
they have to go through hoops for this and that and the other, and everything changes from year to year. And their recertifications that they have to do. There's just so much that is on them, and bless each and every one of their hearts, because they're out there because they love children.
They love teaching,
and what they're
and they're faced with, is just simply what you might say: legislation, regulation, and strangulation. And a lot of times you're going, where did this come from? Who was the Einstein that thought this up? somebody needs to slap that dude and wake him up, and, but I mean, it's really pitiful when you take good people who have a heart of a teacher and you red tape them down to where there's no wiggle room. All they got to do is be a productive person inside of a system that has no heart, no feeling, has no connection with your child. And I mean, my heart goes out to them because I know how frustrating that can be for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
We got about 4 minutes left. Michaela said she wanted to sing for us a little bit, so I figured I'd give her a couple of minutes to sing, but
I wish I knew how.
Oh yeah. Well, I tell you, if I carried a tune in the bucket, you'd see me walk around carrying a bucket all the time so I could sing. But Donna, this week has really been an amazing week. When we set up this week to start being homeschooling part 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, I did not have any idea, ladies and gentlemen, that we were going to be able to produce and deliver so much content.
Right.
Howard Berg, he was on Monday on part 1 on reading, and we brought him back on Thursday for part 4. And what Michaela brought up to the table there on part 3 with the myths. And gosh, part 2 was just kind of like we were still in awe of Howard Berg from day 1. And we really were, because it is a tremendous show that he put on. And wrapping it up this week with what we've said and what we've shared, it's been a total pleasure for us to provide the infotainment. That's what this show's all about. We're about infotainment. It's not about us. Oh yeah, I mean, I may, we may say funny things now just to break the ice and all that. And I may say something funny to try to get Donna giggling, which is not hard. She can look at me and start giggling right now, see? And if I say something really intelligent, she'll snort for us.
Again.
Yeah. But, the main thing of it is we're seen on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire, goodness, Android TV, Twitch, Periscope, YouTube, even Donna's TV. So we're all invited over to Donna's house after the show. We'll watch the rerun over there.
That's right.
There you go.
But it really is an honor and a privilege for you folks out there to tune into our show. And we humbly ask that the information that would be valuable for someone else, please send them to our YouTube channel, Messages of Inspirational Stories TV show. That's the title of our YouTube channel. And you'll see this week's part 1, 2, 3, 4. Today's number 5. It'll be there. And the week before, it'll be there tomorrow. We'll upload tonight. But the week before, we had Rennie Gabriel on, Get Out of Debt and Create Wealth at the Same Time. Hello. I mean, right. I wish
everybody needs that.
Yeah.
And that's something else that parents can incorporate in for their children.
Oh, yeah. That's brilliant, Donna.
That's something.
I have my moments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But anyway, Michaela, we want to thank you for being with us this week. You'll be with us next Tuesday when we have the gentleman on, Mr. Lars Gustafsson. Oh, my goodness. Be sure and tune in for that, ladies and gentlemen, because you're going to be in for a treat. He is a tremendous speaker. And our theme next week is going to be remaining or living positive in a negative world. And Lord knows we got 3 buckets a day on top of our head of negativeness in this world.
Right. And we want to thank each and every one of you who tune in every day and see us. Oh my gosh, we appreciate it. We are not just here in the United States. We are global. We're literally around the world, and we appreciate each and every one of you, and that we bring value to you, and that you choose to spend an hour of your day with us.
Mm-hmm. That's well said, Donna. We really do appreciate that. And ladies and gentlemen, in closing, very, very quickly, be sure that you go to wherever it is. There it is. The 6minutewebinar.com/free trial. Get your free trial. Try that on one topic. You be the judge, and guess what? You won't owe anybody a popsicle or a penny. I give you my word on that, okay? She's giggling again. I mean, I speak in country English, you know. Anyway.
Well, I'm just picturing you in your remedial button class.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. Let's see, Poe, Hughes. Ladies and gentlemen, we're out of time. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful week. Number one, be sure and love yourself so you can love others. And most importantly, be good to yourself. And always remember, it's Friday afternoon now. And if by chance it's your birthday, Donna and I voted on that. We were unanimous in that vote. It's your birthday cakes and all sweets is health food. So don't let anybody tell you anything else. You got to hear official on our TV show. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Be safe, folks. Bye-bye.